What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another edition of the remote front office. I know it's been a little while, but we will get into that. We will do kind of a catch up as far as what the channel is going to be, and then as well as we are going to preview the conference finals for both the Eastern Conference and the Western Conference. But before we get into that, you guys could make sure to subscribe, turn the notifications on. We will be back to regularly uploading on this channel, so we will be doing the conference finals, obviously, and then we will be talking about the NBA finals, and then we will work into draft, free agency, and then we'll do it all over again, right? But yeah, let's go ahead and get back into. So first and foremost, obviously you guys can tell the background is new. I did end up moving since the regular videos, so I've been getting that set up and a couple other things. And then as well as I kind of burnt myself out. I was doing trying to do content 3 days a week. And once you get towards the middle of the NBA season, I just feel like it was the same topics. I was trying to cover general topics, was trying to get into specifics, and I think all in all, it just also as well as I stopped watching as many games as I was at the beginning of the year, to be honest. Like I had them on in the background, but I wasn't necessarily paying enough attention to it to really be able to talk about it intelligently enough, especially when you get in the middle of the season and it's kind of just we're ready for the playoffs, right? But as far as this channel goes, so we will go to 2 days a week instead of 3 days a week. In the off season, we very well may go to 1 day a week, which kind of depends on news for that week. Just because once you get, truly into the middle, I'm not talking free agency, I'm not talking draft, I'm talking truly once we are in the full-fledged off season, that is where that will go. Also, I will try and start off-season outlooks. I know we didn't get through nearly as many as I wanted to last year, but those may be their own separate videos aside from these 2 time a week videos. But we officially have our Eastern and Western Conference finals. The Western Conference, after a wonderful 7-game series, not necessarily on a game-by-game basis, but just the fact we got 7 games and then how Game 7 played out. The Minnesota Timberwolves will be playing the Dallas Mavericks, who beat OKC in 6. As far as this matchup goes, there's a couple of things I'm looking for. I want to see first, how does Dallas deal with Rudy Gobert and Karl-Anthony Towns, right? I kind of expect PJ Washington to cover Anthony Edwards. As far as Cat, it seems to be a pretty common trend to try and put a smaller guy on him. So I wouldn't be surprised. It's probably Derek Jones Jr.'s responsibility would be my guess. And then the center will go to Rudy Gobert, whether it is Daniel Gafford or Derek Lively. And then as far as Luka and Kyrie, I'm assuming obviously you're going to try and keep them out of having to guard somebody as much as possible. I'm assuming Kyrie's probably closer to guarding Mike Conley, and Luka's probably guarding Jaden McDaniels. But that's just my guess without us actually seeing any playoff minutes yet. As far as what to expect from both teams, I wouldn't be surprised to see Minnesota come out and do a lot more full court pressure. They did a lot during the Denver series, but I think with how Dallas is built, you want to get Luka, you want to get Kyrie, you want to get them kind of eating up a little more clock in the backcourt as opposed to getting it across half and having plenty of time to dribble, set up, and get good looks. I wouldn't be surprised if Cat is kind of off more on like a PJ Washington, maybe Derek Jones Jr., and then it'll kind of depend, but I would expect, obviously, Rudy Gobert to be guarding whether it's Derek Lively or Daniel Gafford. As far as my prediction for the series, I'm with the momentum Dallas has. I want to say Dallas, but after watching Minnesota win the way they did for Game 7, I do think I am going Minnesota in 6. I think Anthony Edwards is starting to hit a stride. I know he struggled a little bit in Game 7. I'm hoping this is not we focus so much on Denver, we're out of gas come the Dallas series. But I do think that Ant's hit a level now where we do have to kind of treat him up in that superstar level. And I also just trust the supporting cast of Minnesota more than I trust Dallas. Don't get me wrong, I think PJ Washington and Derek Jones Jr. have both really had really good playoffs so far. They've shot really well. But I don't know necessarily if that's who they can be for a third series, right? Um, PJ Washington, I believe in a little bit more than Derrick Jones Jr. I just think that now that we're starting to hit this third series, I just don't know if they can maintain the hot streak they've been on this entire time. As far as the Eastern Conference goes, Boston is there. We fully expected Boston to be here, right? Just kind of with the way the bracket broke. When Miami kind of came out a little flat without Jimmy Butler, and then you had Cleveland, who after a couple of games, Donovan Mitchell was no longer in the rotation. I think all of that combined, I think everybody, even without that necessarily, I think both those teams at full strength. I still think everybody expected Boston to be here, right? But the team that's a surprise is the Indiana Pacers. So after beating Milwaukee, I do understand there was a lot of injuries. They did play that 7-game series against New York. Game 7 wasn't necessarily as close, but I fully understand it now in the moment, just with the amount of injuries. And I didn't expect OG to only play 4 minutes. I knew he was hurt. I didn't know it was that bad, to the point where he literally shouldn't even have been out there. Josh Hart, after his injuries, just didn't look the same. Obviously, Brunson broke his hand at the end of the third. And then you just had these piles and piles and piles of injuries. I fully expected it to be a closer game. I fully expected it to be a low scoring game. And I fully expected New York to come out and win that game. Just between the fact that it was in the Garden. Normally, game sevens are a lot slower pace. And also, teams don't shoot as well as Indy did. Indy shot a not even just a franchise record, but a league record, 67% for the full game. And I think they were at 76 going into halftime. Teams just don't do that. It's just not what happens in game seven. People are normally a little more tense. Normally, it's a lot more you're worried about making sure every possession counts, that sort of thing. And they just came out and played their way and ended up winning the game by 20. So as far as this conference finals goes, I understand nobody is picking Indiana. I also will not be picking Indiana, just to keep that straight. But I do think Indiana has a chance to win some games, right? Porzingis is out for sure the first 2 games. We don't know after that. But I do think that Boston has a tendency to get complacent. Boston has a tendency to lose games they're supposed to win. They lost game 2 in the Heat series and in the Cleveland series. So personally, I think coming out of Boston, we're in a 1-1 series. And then as far as Indiana goes at home, they have played really, really well. So I wouldn't be surprised if they split. So we could look at a 6-game series. I personally will go 5, just because I think Boston understands that this is the series to get it done, right? You want to get the series done, over with, so that you have plenty of rest before the finals, because you are playing either Dallas, who is looking really, really good and is going to keep your hands full with Luka and Kyrie, and if the PJ Washington, Derrick Jones Jr., those wings, if that rotation is going to keep shooting well, you need all the just time to break down film that you can, right? And then if you're playing Minnesota, obviously that defense is going to be something that creates a lot of problems for Boston. As I think that Minnesota would play them more in a full court setting, really try and get people to have to handle the ball. It's always been kind of a hit or miss thing with Boston the last couple of years. It's just how they handle full court pressure and how they respond to it, right? I do still want to give Indiana credit for getting all the way here. I don't necessarily want them to jump the gun and overshoot. We saw Atlanta get to this spot a couple years ago. Portland a couple years before that got to a similar spot. And I don't want them to think that this is where they should be automatically next year. They can be here next year for sure, with a full year of Siakam and Halliburton together, as well as offseason additions if you can find somebody else. I still would like to see them improve the defense personally. I understand that they had the best offense in league history or whatever. It happens every year that we get the new one. But I would like to see them more so focus on getting guys that are defenders, right? I understand you still want to play a high tempo, right? But while keeping that court spacing, I still think they need to prioritize guys that are switchable, have defensive IQ. Neesmith is a great start, as well as Siakam is still not necessarily prime Siakam defensively, but I still think he can hold his own. Miles Turner obviously is a good rim protector. I just think that more on the the shooting guard spot, right? I know it's a lot to ask for trying to get a 3-and-D guy that plays your shooting guard, but I think they just still need that primary defender, right? I'd rather see Neesmith be the secondary defender and Siakam be maybe for like the bigger forwards. I understand it's a really tall task to ask, but I think that maybe if they're willing to make a little more trades, a little bit more tougher decisions, um, I think that it can definitely be done. But that is going to be the preview for the conference finals. We will have a video talking Friday as far as all the games that have happened up to that point. So I think we have games every other day starting Tuesday. So we'll have a couple of games in each series to talk about, break down, and kind of figure out where the series are going to go from there. But yeah, I appreciate it. Glad to be back, guys. We'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.